One. Greetings, vinyl community. Mike from Mike Guitar Player 07 here, coming at you live with another vinyl record video collab. And on this episode, I guess these are episodes now, I feel like Ed Sullivan, we got Chris from Chris Has the Spins.
Yo, yo, yo. What's up, dude? Yeah, this is my first time doing a collab on YouTube, for sure. So
yeah, there you go.
Thanks for the invite.
Glad to have you, and in a brand new location, too.
I'm in the basement, man.
There you go. And,
yeah.
Something that if you guys don't know, oh, excuse me, I got a little bit of a talking all class. I had a class before this, and now my throat's dry. So pretty much, good thing I got my water here. So pretty much, those who don't know Chris and me, welcome. Pretty much, me and Chris both love music. Me and Chris both love vinyl. Me and Chris both have a record collection. Me and Chris also both play guitar. And if you don't get that from my username alone, then I don't know. I can't help you. Maybe you need to see a doctor. But anyway.
What instruments do you all play, Mike?
Me, it's piano, guitar, and voice mainly at the moment. I'm in the process of learning ukulele though, or as the Hawaiians say, ukulele.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I knew that you played piano, guitar, sang. I didn't know if you were like one of those dudes that played like everything, or if you had limitations at some point.
I'm trying to learn everything. I eventually want to learn the trumpet and alto sax. So
nice.
But yeah, and I guess just the guitar for you and singing.
Yep, little djembe drum, guitar, no singing. I have the worst voice. Horrible.
Good to know.
But like anything, I'm sure if I practiced at it, I could probably polish it up a little bit. But yeah. I feel like at some point you're just either born with it or you weren't. I feel like I wasn't.
Okay, well, I guess I'll take you to a karaoke bar, hear you sing Friends in Loads Places, and then I'll make my judgment.
I'm good.
But anyway.
But yeah, so I asked Mike before we started, because I watched yours and Chris Tunes from the Man Cave video. You guys are drinking the whole time, so I just naturally assumed Mike was going to have a beer tonight. So I packed a couple brewskis, and Mike, I'm from Wisconsin, and we like to drink a little bit here. So, I'm rolling in with a growler tonight, and Mike's drinking water, making me look like an alcoholic. But no, it's cool. So we're supporting local. There's a cool brewery, and they're available for pickup only. So Margot and I picked up a growler. There's a little bit left. I was like, this might go long. I might need a refill. I'm just going to bring the growler down.
Yeah, there you go.
So I'm going to pour a little something. What's that?
I should buy a growler from my local favorite craft brewery.
Yeah, it was like $12. It's cheap.
Yeah.
Well, so I'll cheers you anyways, brother. Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Even though it's water, it counts.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine if this whole thing was filled with vodka. I'd be out by the end of this.
We'll know in like 10 minutes if it is.
Yeah, true. I couldn't do that.
That's disgusting.
Ain't that the truth? So pretty much what me and Chris have decided that we're going to do is we're going to combine our talents and our loves of both music and vinyl records and guitars. So we're going to talk about some guitar-driven albums today.
Which is tough because it's like you could rack your brain and look at your collection for an hour, and there is so many different possibilities. So I try not to think about it too hard. Kind of just first things that popped into my head. But I don't know what you picked. I have no idea, but I was like, I don't know. I guess I'll try and steer clear of Jimi Hendrix and like Led Zeppelin, like the ones that are like so easy to go to, but
I thought you were going to choose Hendrix, so I didn't choose Hendrix. Zeppelin too obvious. I'm not doing that one.
Yeah, right. But, Jimmy Page, Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah, but and I almost stroked you a little bit with pulling out the guitar music from Spain that you sent me as a VCLT.
Yeah, dude. Actually, it's funny because I did the same thing. This isn't one of my 5, but I grabbed the Hot Tuna.
Oh yeah, that's very guitar driven.
Yeah, it's a sweet album. Yeah, but I think the favorite part of this album is the cover. Look at how big that guitar is. Like I think it's that one. Yeah, like if he sat that upright, like it'd be like 7 feet tall.
Probably.
It's a sweet guitar though.
photo not drawn to size.
Yeah, right.
But,
That's awesome. But yeah, no, that is a really good album. I don't know anything about Hot Tuna. I've never really researched them at all, but
well, now you got it, and hopefully I've made you interested in grabbing a few more things by them maybe in the future.
yeah, I never see them, ever come across them at all.
Yeah, I don't either. I got that in a group of a collection that I bought, and I enjoyed it, but I was like, Chris will like this more. And
Yeah.
that's kind of how that went down. And yeah, I've only seen them one other time. I saw their album Burgers in one of the record stores out in the wild once, but that's
Hmm.
about it.
Huh.
Hot Tuna with an album named Burgers, huh? Right?
Yeah, right. They're kind of contradicting themselves there.
A little bit. But I don't know how long this intro has been, but no one's even seen any records yet. Well, rather than Hot Tuna one. So, Chris, you're the guest. You get to speak about your first guitar-driven record first.
All right, let's do it. I didn't really put these in any order. I'll just go right off the top. Yeah, first one I picked was Bayou Country by CCR. You have this album?
It's not one I own, but I've heard it.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could pick any CCR album, obviously. John Fogerty, I mean, the dude is just an animal on guitar. Kind of one of those guys that I think likes running the whole band, is talented enough to run the whole band, and who knows, that might have been what led to their demise. But man, those first 4 or 5 albums were just absolutely on fire. So this is their second studio release. It came out in early '69, and it was actually the first of 3 albums they released that year, which is like mind-blowing in itself. But the big one on this album is Proud Mary. So obviously, I think they had Susie Q, and then Proud Mary was on this. But if you want to talk about like guitar-driven songs, and it's nice because they're kind of the lesser known. It's kind of diving a little deeper into their catalog. But the song "Keep on Shuglin'," it's like 7 minutes 40 seconds long. Just an absolute jam. That song is sweet. "Penthouse Pauper," that's one of my favorite songs. He's just ripping on that song the whole way through. "Good Golly Miss Molly," one of my favorites. And then "Graveyard Train," 8.5 minutes long. Again, so similar to what the heck was it? "Keep on Shuglin'," similar to that, just kind of like a 3-4 minute jam at the end. Obviously, it's got "Born on the Bayou." It's like a 10 out of 10 album, in my opinion. A lot of those early CCRs are. But yeah, it was interesting because I was reading up on Fogerty and his songwriting style and his process. And early on, for the first few albums, he said he would just like sit in his apartment or house, whatever it was, and just stare at like a blank wall and like go into like this like weird self-trance meditation and just like stare at this wall until like ideas came to his head. And that's how he wrote Proud Mary and Born on the Bayou. And he's like, I knew nothing about bayous. I didn't grow up by a bayou, but like everything I thought I knew about them from when I was a kid to that point, like it just came out, and that was the song. And I was just like, man, what an odd way to write songs, but it worked.
Yeah, that's definitely. I don't think I've heard a bad CCR album. I haven't heard their whole discography, but of the early stuff, nothing bad.
Yeah, no, it's
even deep.
The stuff is on fire.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if you ever saw it on here on YouTube. I do have me doing a cover of Proud Mary at my senior high school show choir performance.
Do you?
Show. Yeah,
I've probably seen it. I've gone back a ways into your videos because you posted videos years and years back, right?
I've been posting since 2011. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my performances date all the way even older than that, like 2008, 2009 with 7th grade and my early performances or first performances. So yeah.
You're a performer. You got it in your blood, man. That's awesome.
I'd like to think so. All right. So my first choice is one that I haven't talked about on this channel, really, rather than saying, oh, I have this record from my uncle. This is a promotional copy of this live album by the Atlanta Rhythm Section called Are You
Nice.
Ready, right? It's called Are You Ready? Yeah, Are You Ready?
Sweet.
It's a double LP, highly guitar driven. You can see what a crowd and what a small stage compared to the crowd.
Yeah, that's a lot of people.
Yeah, and a lot of great shots from the concert. Fantastic Southern rock music. Are you familiar with the Atlanta Rhythm Section?
A little bit. I don't know much about them. Champagne Jam, that's like the one song that pops into my head. I love that song.
That's their biggest hit, and they do a very good version of it live. That's their biggest hit and the biggest album, because for those who don't know, that was their album.
Is that like Skinner's Freebird? Is that like what they always end shows with?
It was actually the second song on this album. I do not know if they did that. I'm still learning about Atlanta Rhythm Section myself, but this was just similar to when I first heard ZZ Top, other than the hits for the first time, kind of blew me away with the guitar stuff. So I kind of just throw this in here, even though I know little to nothing about it.
Right.
Because I want to see, what's the name of the guitar player on this? Barry Bailey is the guitarist of this group.
Good old Barry B.
Barry B, yeah. What's the name? And it's a guitar-driven tune, and it's just fantastic. As I said, I don't know if I said this, but it's a double LP, and they even have a cover of Long Tall Sally, which is kind of cool. Their own.
Nice, that is cool. And I feel like they're one of those bands too that like you could go on Discogs and like buy their whole discography for probably like $40. You know, buy like 5-10 albums. For whatever reason, certain bands like that, you can just find their stuff for like $3-4, $5.
Yeah, I've actually never looked for them in a while. Every Atlanta Rhythm Section I have either came from my uncle's or grandfather's collection. So
yeah, that's cool.
But but the CDs are anywhere between like $5 and $12. So, and I'm going to be getting some of these on CD because they're just that good. So
right, nice first pick, Mikey. Threw me for a loop there.
Yeah, I figured to do a more obscure one before I get to the slightly more common ones.
Yeah, like I said, I'm just pulling off the shelf here. So,
well, I already know what it is based on the cover.
Yeah, so I've shown this. I just got it recently within the past few months. But Sacred Mushroom, the Sacred Mushroom, group out of Cincinnati, Ohio. They released this in '69, and it was their only release. But like I think I mentioned this when I first showed it. But like you look at this album and you instantly just think rhythm and blues, right? Not psych.
No, psych rock.
You look at this and you're like, oh my God, you got to be on acid to enjoy this. But you listen to it and it's truly a blues album. Not blues in like the true blues sense, but it's like garagey blues, psych blues. By no means psychedelic. I mean, there's psychedelic undertones, but the long-winded version of what I'm trying to say is the guitar player, I guess, rhythm and lead are phenomenal on this album. Have you ever heard this album?
Bits and pieces of it, because I believe Dylan over at Noble Records, I think, showed it in one of his psych rock or psychedelic based videos, and I sampled it on Spotify that day and loved it, but I haven't gotten a chance to hear the whole thing.
Yeah, right. No, definitely check it out. Lead guitar and vocals is Larry Goshorn, and then rhythm guitar is Freddie Fogwell. But yeah, phenomenal, super, super talented musicians. It's just like I don't really think there's a bad moment or bad song on this record. But so I was trying to come into this video with a little background knowledge. So I read the back liner notes again. I refreshed myself, but it said, so it's 5 dudes from Ohio. They eventually were like, okay, we're always trying to get together and find a place to jam. Let's rent a house and move in together. So they did that, but then apparently, I don't know, like weird, like cult-like following almost, or it turned into 20 people are all of a sudden living in this house. Mm. And it's all these people in that picture. I don't know how good that's coming through.
Oh, that's coming in perfectly. Wow, that's a lot of people.
A lot of people. And so what do they call them on here? As frequently happens, the house became a home and sheltered a small tribe known as colloquial as mushroom people. So I don't know what that means or what was going on in that house, but it's kind of an odd background, but I guess kind of cool. Just a bunch of people living under the house making music. But yeah, they were one and done. I don't know why they disbanded or what happened. I think it's kind of like more of an underground cult following these days. They never hit it mainstream. But phenomenal guitar-driven album.
Is that an original pressing? I know you've been lucky with originals nowadays.
Yeah, so it is an OG. It's not in perfect condition. It's got some split seams and stuff, but the wax itself is VG plus all the way. And it was one of those. I just felt like I needed to have it. I didn't find this in the wild for like $2. I actually bought this off eBay. But I made an offer, and apparently the guy just wanted to get rid of it, so I got it for pretty cheap.
I was going to say, that's one of the more expensive ones out there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you want to get a really clean copy, you're probably upwards of 150, but I didn't pay anywhere near that. But I think Mike Jam on Vinyl just got a reissue. I'm pretty sure they have reissues of this now.
I believe so.
It's on Parallax.
Okay. I'm still mad. I'm still mad you got that original Dexter Gordon Go for dirt cheap and then sold it off. You're a smart man, but damn you.
Yeah, I know, man. That was a tough one. I'll just tell the story quick. Everyone's heard it, but I found an original Dexter Gordon Go for $2 in some professor's basement, and I had been spending a lot of money on vinyl last year, and I was like, man, if I can sell this I'll just throw it on Discogs for like a crazy price. No one's ever going to touch it. But if they do, then I'll be like, all right, I guess I got to get rid of it. And that'll basically pay for most of my vinyl spending up to that point. So like a month goes by and I was like, no one's going to even sniff that. And then all of a sudden out of the blue, new message on Dexter Gordon's Go. So-and-so has purchased the album. I was like, So at that point I didn't really have a choice. I couldn't be like, sorry dude, I don't really want to sell it anymore.
Yeah, I can't. I know you told me how much you sold it for privately. I can't remember what that number is, and you don't have to disclose that here, but you definitely made a nice profit on that, and you could have maybe even made more, who knows.
Right, probably.
But
there's reissues out there, Mikey.
Even if you were to even offer it to me, I know I couldn't have given you what you got for it. So
I know I felt bad when you were saying how I didn't even know you really were like drooling over that one. So when you heard that I sold it and you said like, oh man, like you should have let me know, I felt bad. But
oh, no need to feel bad. You hooked me up with a beautiful timeout timeout reissue, and I'm
happy. Great.
As my grandfather used to say, happier than a hog and shit. So I'm loving it.
Nice.
6-eye reissue, and it plays flawlessly.
Sweet. Yeah, it was clean.
Yes. So the next album I'm going to show, Pink Floyd's Wish You Were Here. Now,
nice.
Something I just noticed recently, because one of the music group chats I'm in on Facebook, I don't even know, are you on Facebook? Because I'm not connected with you if you are.
Yeah, I am. Instagram's been the thing for me lately. I hardly ever go on Facebook.
Okay, fair. But on Facebook, there's a group chat that I'm in, or a Facebook group, excuse me. And I never noticed this about this album until recently, but notice how the guy in Flames is in two different positions. On this one, he's leaning back. On this one, he's standing a little bit forward.
Oh, yeah.
I never noticed.
Is that strictly vinyl versus CD formats, or?
I have no idea. That's just something I just learned like maybe 2 days ago, so I haven't gotten to look into it yet, but it threw me off. I was like, I have a 2011 reissue of this album. It's one of the few albums I have a double of. I should look at the 2011 reissue and see if it's the CD flame forward guy or if it's the thrown backwards guy.
Right.
I based on the context of this album, for those who don't know, it's pretty much a screw you to the music industry as a whole, and also it's a nod to Syd Barrett and we wish you would come back, hence wish you were here and wish you were around and wish you were with us. But there's a lot of undertones saying screw you to the music industry as a whole. And It's interesting. I see both validity in both, because the guy who on fire, I assume, is the guy who's being burned by the music industry, and then the other guy's just a businessman being worried about just the numbers, and that's about it. But I could see in this regard the guy's trying to pull away, but this guy's like, oh, I want in on this, but can we make a deal? Can we make this better, kind of thing? So I don't know.
Right.
It's all up to interpretation, I guess, because I don't know if because I have just learned about this, as I said, I don't know if there's any interviews or statements by the band as to why this is like this.
Yeah, that's weird. My copy's upstairs. I'll have to go check after this and see if I got this straight up or the lean back.
Is yours a reissue or an original?
I think it's an original.
Yeah, I believe that this is an original or an early pressing. I can't remember offhand, but pretty much.
Yeah.
The back of it is that picture, as we all know, and then the CD version, it has what would later be known as like the "Wish You Were Here" kind of logo kind of thing. But guitar driven. This is one of the most guitar driven albums of the catalog, in my opinion, from Pink Floyd, other than maybe some of the guitar solos of like The Wall, of course, or maybe some of the more proggier early stuff that came before this. But really, of their more mainstream stuff, this is definitely the most guitar driven work. And why I say that is if you just look at the song Shine On You Crazy Diamond, both parts 1 and parts 2, or 1 through 6 and 1 through 9, or whatever the numbers are for the parts. On the CD, it says part 1, part 2, and on vinyl record, it has like the extramental numbers added.
Yeah.
But Shine On You Crazy Diamond, just the guitar alone, sure, it's not shredding metal, but like you're getting slapped in the face with some killer mood guitar solos, like just
yeah, he was really good at just like feeling it out. He didn't have to overplay. He was really good at like hanging, drawing out his notes and bending strings and like making it just flow through.
That was one of the things that David Gilmour is still great at.
Yeah.
And then of course you go into Welcome to the Machine, which, I mean, just listen to the guitar riff. Boom, 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 boom. Like it's all. If it wasn't for that, it's almost has a bass-like feel, that guitar riff. And then you go into Have a Cigar. I mean, we all know that because that was a radio hit. Welcome to the Machine was too, but not as much. And then Wish You Were Here. I mean, it's an acoustic guitar tune, so it doesn't get much more guitar driven than that.
Right.
And as I said, this is a fantastic tune. The CD on this is kind of cool, kind of in flames like the guy in the album cover. I do not know if the original 80s CDs that came out were like that. I don't know because I got this CD brand new from my grandmother on my dad's side for Valentine's Day. Actually, the last Valentine's Day I got with her. But yeah, so that was kind of has that sentimental value actually to it now that I come to think of it. But I don't know but I got this brand new, so I don't know if all CD versions are like that or if they have various things. But that's something that's cool to this CD version, if nothing else.
And you just noticed that yourself?
What's that? The flame on the CD?
Yeah, the two different guys' positions.
Oh yeah. I had no idea about that. Someone pointed it out on a Facebook group, music.
Oh, that's where you came across it, or that's when someone pointed it out.
Yeah, and then I looked and I was like,
Yeah, wait, what?
Then I pulled them out and I was like, I need to pull out the 2011 vinyl reissue. I have to see if it compares to the CD or that version. So, but
right, maybe you have like the one misprint in existence.
Oh, imagine that.
Gilmour's trying to track it down, and he's like, "Who has it?"
Well, he could have it, but he got to pay me a pretty penny.
Yeah, or give you a signed guitar or something.
Yeah. But that's pick number 2 for me.
All right, sweet. All right. So this is the second one from Ohio. Big surprise, a Black Keys album.
Okay.
Yeah, Black Keys is two dudes, drummer and guitar. So obviously it's going to be pretty guitar driven. Dan Auerbach is just a super gritty player. heavily influeed by early blues, Junior Kimbrough, Howlin' Wolf, even as early as Robert Johnson. So it's, you know, it's blues in a garage rocky sense. And for whatever reason, the Black Keys have just always hit home with me. Earlier stuff a little more than the later stuff, but Let's Rock, I did really like that. So this is their third album, Rubber Factory. And man, it's a smoker for sure. Till I Get My Way, Stack Shot Billy. What else is on here? "10 a.m. Automatic," "Girls on My Mind." Phenomenal record. And again, is like an interesting story about where they recorded this. I never really researched it too much, but so like I said, this is their third album. The first two they actually recorded in Patrick Carney, the drummer's basement. Must have been a duplex or something because the landlord sold the house and he had to move out. So they had nowhere to record this third album. I guess, like, I don't know, just go to a studio, but they probably had no money and like were
Right.
You know, were broke. So there's this old abandoned tire factory in Akron, Ohio. That's where they're from. And they basically rented out this entire second floor of this old dilapidated tire factory that was completely cleared out. I don't think there was anyone else renting any space in it. So that's where they recorded this album, and that's why it's called Rubber Factory. But they said it just sucked because it was on the second floor. So imagine hauling all their gear up there. They said it got super hot in the summer. Like, you couldn't open the windows. So like, kind of cool story, but at the same time, like, nah, it was brutal. Like, it sucked. But it's kind of cool to know that it was recorded in a freaking tire factory. Like,
yeah,
who would have thought?
Where did they record their prior two albums? Did they just have the basement still at the old place before the landlord sold it?
What's that?
Where did they record their first two albums? In the basement?
Yeah, so they recorded it in the drummer's basement, but okay. It was basically off of like handheld recording devices that they bought off eBay and stuff, like super unprofessional, super raw. But I think honestly that probably adds to it for me, because I like that kind of raw, gritty, unpolished.
Okay. And they're all self-produced even to this day? Because I know they're not on a major label, I don't think, right?
Yeah, no, they've never struck major. I believe they're all self-produced. I know they've gone on to produce other artists, but yeah, I don't know that they've been produced by anybody. Danger Mouse was always the record label I think that they were on for the most recent albums, and then Fat Possum on the earlier ones, but don't quote me on any of that.
Okay.
But yeah, I was actually supposed to go with Margot to Canada May 8th, and we were going to see the Black Keys, and the Sheepdogs were opening for them, like one of my favorite bands from Canada.
You were going to be set.
Dude, we had awesome seats. I was pumped, and yeah, that officially got canceled like a couple days ago, but I knew that was coming. I was like, will you just tell us? Like, everyone knows it's canceled. Just tell us.
Yeah, right. Well, I mean, coming from a person who's studying the music business and all that stuff, they're all just hopeful and holding on to any last chance that they can hold on to them. I mean, not only hold on to the money, but like make the event happen, because they obviously want to make everybody happy too, but they just.
Right.
But yeah, the Black Keys, I don't know them super well. When everybody was talking about the Let's Rock album that came out this past year, I grabbed it. And by grabbed it, I mean I grabbed it on Spotify because I didn't have it on physical format at the time. And then after that, once I got the funds, I bought the CD because I just needed it. Because at the time, I was spending more time in my car or my truck really, and than anywhere else. So I wasn't really spinning my records or CDs or anything home or anything. So
right.
Just like, I'll put it on my phone and then I'll have it there.
Do you like it?
It's fantastic. And then since then, I've Spotify'd from El Camino forward through Let's Rock. I just need to get their older stuff in my brain now. But I've enjoyed everything I've heard. And that's hard for me to say, especially even for modern rock music, because the music just ain't the same. So.
Oh man, yeah. And so the
I
one
do.
before, so El Camino is basically as far back as you've gone.
Yeah.
Okay, I think the one before that, if I'm not getting it mixed up, is Turn Blue, which might be like my least favorite. Still some really good songs on it.
Oh, Turn Blue. Is that the one with the Spiral album cover? Like the
Yeah.
Spiral? Oh, actually, I've heard that one too then. Then one more back I've heard.
Okay, unless I have them flip-flopped. But yeah, you should really go back to the first one and just work your way through, because the earliest stuff is super raw.
Okay.
Yeah, on Turn Blue, they got the full band, bass player, keyboard player, and like that just kind of didn't do it for me. Like took away some of that unpolishedness.
Yeah, it definitely. I mean, based on what you've told me, I could totally see that. I kind of liked its vibe. It kind of had some slight psych vibes to it at times, and
For sure.
older tune vibes, like older, like 70s and 60s inspiration type feeling to it. So, but
Yeah.
I've been enjoying it. I just need to get more into it.
Right, and for me, it's like I'm slicing hairs. Like I can say it's my least favorite album, but it's still an awesome album. Like every album's just a little different, and you can't knock a band for trying different sounds and different concepts and trying to evolve a little.
It's like me ranking Led Zeppelin's discography. It's painful to me to even rank any of them low because they're all so damn good.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, fantastic. I assume, based on what I know of the Black Keys. The next pick. All right. So I did not just pull out CDs and records, but I also threw in some cassettes in there too. And this album I only have on cassette. They actually recently reissued this for this past record store day, not the one that was canceled, but the one before that. And I thought about getting it. It was on cool colored wax and all that stuff, but I was like, no, I want it with the original album cover. I want the Silver Surfer on my album cover. Joe Stradiani surfing with the alien.
Wow, look at that on cassette.
Yes,
that's awesome.
And I'll tell you, it people like Joe Stradiani, does it really get any more guitar than that? It's like Joe created his own type of guitar playing, pretty much, and he was actually the guitar teacher of another person who I'm going to be throwing in here in another pick in a not so distant future in here. So I won't say who that individual is yet, but this was that individual's mentor, and pretty much took off what he was doing and made it that individual's own as well. And it's just like their own kind of thing. It's like I forget the guy who does the song Cliffs of Dover offhand, but it's kind of like he has his own kind of vibe and sound too, like kind of unique style within the rock or instrumental music scene.
Right.
I don't even know what to even categorize this as. It's just
what year did that come out?
This was 1987.
87. Wow.
I don't even know how to. I guess if jazz fusion was rock.
Yeah.
I guess is the best way to describe it. It's all instrumental, but it'll blow you away. If you like guitar driven music, you'll love every moment of this. So, and as I said, it has an interesting history because Marvel no longer is giving the rights to or DC, I can't remember which one the Silver Surfer is. I believe it's Marvel though. Is no longer giving the rights to the album cover. So the Silver Surfer is gone. It's just pretty much the red and yellowish background and blue being just swirled around. And maybe it's just because I'm used to seeing it this way that it ruins the album cover for me. But if I end up needing to get a reissue on CD or vinyl record, then I guess I'll be okay with it. It's really about the music in the grand scheme of things anyway. But I just love this album cover. It's just so iconic.
Man, I have to plead ignorance. He's one artist that like has completely slipped my radar. I've seen that album and his name mentioned in the VC before, but I've never owned any of his music. I've never really even listened to any of his music. Is he predominantly in the 80s?
He's still doing stuff nowadays. Actually, it's interesting. Of course you're familiar with the band Coldplay. The song Viva La Vida actually is got copywritten infringement strikes against them and had a whole lawsuit against Them by Joe because of a 2003 song he released. I don't remember the name of the song on the album at the moment, but yeah, he's still around today. I believe he actually just put out a Christmas album this past year.
Nice.
But,
nice to know he's still in the holiday spirit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, he released it just about a week ago. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Christmas is his favorite holiday for sure.
Oh, yeah.
Did he like come out in the 70s or was he more 80s?
Yeah, he was more predominant in the late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, okay.
But he still made a name for himself all through the early 2000s, and he kind of has slipped off the radar at this point, but he's still doing stuff. I think he's actually in the works of creating a new album right now. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I believe he just made a statement in the whole situation of the pandemic and everything. He said he's not going to be doing the live streams and all that stuff that everybody else is doing because for him personally, it kind of takes away from the experience. He wants to be able to see the fans and all that stuff. He doesn't want everybody to be down, even though I know that he knows that the music will make people feel better and all that, seeing it live and all that stuff in his family room or whatever. He said, I'd rather just bring new content to make people have something brand new to listen to. So I think he said he's making a new album.
That's cool. What better time to work on new music?
Yeah, without a doubt. And, you're a guitar player like me. And when I first got introduced to, or when I first started learning guitar in 7th and 8th grade, this guy was told to me back then that I need to check him out, and I never did. And then I pulled out on Spotify about 2 months before I actually got this in a cassette collection. I pulled it up on Spotify, and I was like, whoa. So, like, imagine me in a school library just Spotifying this album. Heavy guitar driven, the equivalent of jazz fusion, but for guitar, for me at least. It's just so out there. I just don't know how else better to explain it. And I'm just studying for an exam I have, and I'm just like, I couldn't do it. I just had to listen to the music. Thankfully, I had.
And this is in middle school?
No, this was not in middle school. This was, I heard this for the first time in college.
Oh, college.
Yeah. And then
I guess that makes sense with when he was relevant. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm telling you, this, you'd like this. I'd be very surprised if you didn't. It might not be your favorite guitar oriented album, but I would be
right.
If you don't like that.
Nice. I'll have to check him out. Joe Satriani, right?
Oh yeah.
Sweet. All right, I got 2 left.
Elephant.
I mean, you could go with any White Stripes album, any Raconteurs album, any Jack White solo album. But I thought maybe not the solo albums because he really branches out on those and he incorporates a lot of piano and just different elements to his solo albums. But the early White Stripes, kind of in the same vein as the Black Keys. I mean, it's just a 2-piece band. So when there's a drummer and a guitar player, it's pretty much revolving around guitar. Sweet little Meg. I mean, she kept her own on the drums, but she was pretty much just a sidekick. I think Jack was running the show, and he's a phenomenal guitar player. You don't have to say that twice. Everybody knows that. He might not be everybody's cup of tea, but man, you want to talk about like raw, punch you in the face, make you want to tap your feet, guitar playing, Jack White.
And Seven Nation Army is not the best song on that album. It's a good song, but it's not the best on that album.
It's like so many songs. The radio kills so many songs. Like every time I hear that, I'm just like, next. But when you do listen to it and really take it in and like appreciate it, it's a kick-ass song. But yeah, by no means is it the best song on the album. Best guitar-driven solo song for me, probably Ball and Biscuit, just because it's 7 minutes long and he's crushing it the whole time. But
I just pulled that album out. I only have that album on CD. I pulled that out a couple of weeks ago and listened to it because I've been rediscovering my CD collection because I've been collecting records all this time, and that was one of them I rediscovered. And I was like, "Yeah, that's great."
Yeah,
that song.
Oh my gosh, yeah, the album's Awesome. And this is as early as I go back on vinyl. I still need to get their first three. I think this is their fourth album. I need to get their first three, but I don't know. Yeah, like I said, I think with Jack White, it's either like you kind of love him or you hate him. And I've always kind of loved him.
Does that album have a gatefold? Because I heard that one has a gatefold on some pressings and other pressings it doesn't.
Yeah, so I don't know. I'm assuming that because this came out in 2003, so I would assume it came out in vinyl in 2003, but maybe it didn't. I don't know if there's original presses, but this is 2013 reissue.
I've heard the 2013 reissue is one of the best sounding copies of that album, specifically the vinyl record version.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
I've been wanting that on vinyl record.
Yeah. Do you have any White Stripes or Raconteurs?
Raconteurs I've only heard of once I got just at around the same time Let's Rock by the Black Keys came out. So did that album with the hand on the cover.
Helpless Stranger.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a chance to hear that one yet, but it's been on my radar to, if I see it, grab it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's their third album. Their first two are really, really good too. Okay. I think you would dig them.
Yeah, the only Jack White stuff I'm familiar with is that album, Elephant, the one with Orchid, their song Orchid on it. I can't remember the name of that album.
I think that's Icky Thump, maybe.
Because I have the album Iggy Thump digitally too. I've heard.
Or Get Behind Me Satan, one of the two, yeah.
And then there's another White Stripes album that's drawing a blank for me. And then the album that Jack White produced and was featured on the album from the early 2000s by Loretta Lynn, Vanguard Rose or something like that.
Huh.
Loretta Lynn and Jack White. That's a mix you don't think about, eh?
The dude is versatile, though. That's part of what I love about him. He can pretty much do anything.
Right. But, yeah, I definitely do want to get more of that stuff because that's some of the stuff that I'm just like, yeah, that's some of the good modern stuff.
For sure.
And I don't know anything about his solo career. I mean, I know I've seen the album covers, but I've never listened to any of it.
Yeah, they're pretty good. I think he's got a couple, so they're definitely, if you ever see him, grab them for sure.
Yeah, I guess I'll have to do that. Before I throw it out of the water with my final pick, I'll do the more generic pick first. So I have it on all three formats. Let's see if I can pull them all off at the same time, or all three main formats, even though this album was available on 8-track. I just don't have it on 8-track. But Boston.
So, look at that. Wow, that guy means business.
Well,
that's sweet.
It's one of my favorite albums that come out from the 70s. Now, what I love and hate about the cassette version is that cassette version moves the songs out of the original track list order that's on the CD and vinyl record version. But what I love about it is the fact that they do it to conserve and make the best of all the space that's available on the tape. One of the things that drives me nuts about the 80s and 90s and early 2000s cassettes is that they stay true to track listing, but then there's like sometimes 10 minutes of blank tape on the end of it because the other side is longer.
Yeah.
So even though it drives me nuts when I hear the cassette version of it, I do appreciate the fact that they were utilizing the best of their tapes. Because, for example, this is a track listing on the cassette version. It goes More Than a Feeling, Peace of Mind, Something About You, Let Me Take You Home Tonight, Rock and Roll Band, Smokin', Hitch a Ride, Foreplay, Long Time. That mixes it up completely.
Interesting.
Yes, and it has the Epic label on the cassette there, which is kind of cool. This came out in 1978, this album, if I'm not mistaken. And, I mean, obviously, this is a classic. There's not a single person in the VC who doesn't know this album, and if you don't know it, you've been collecting music for maybe 2 days. The CD version is the 2006 reissue. There's no bonus material on it, but it's the one that they did on Epic and Legacy collaboration. It has a cool little yellow disc there. It would have been cool if they made it like orange or something to match the album cover, but I'm not going to complain. The album sounds great.
Yeah, you are.
Yeah. True. It has some exclusive photos and talks about the band a little bit more in depth compared to what you got with the original CD and vinyl record release. And this is the original release. original pressing. And because of the fact that it's an original pressing, of course, I have to show off the cool orange Epic label.
Nice. Man, it looks like it's in mint condition, cover and wax.
Yeah, VG plus near mint. And this copy, I believe I actually got this copy for free, if I'm not mistaken. I got lucky with this one. I don't remember if I bought it in a collection or got it for free, but this was my upgrade copy. I had another copy that I gave away.
Nice.
And by gave away, I gave them the literal record because the sleeve was so beaten that I just put it up as a wall piece and kind of just was like, here, take one of these white, thick cardboard ones and just keep it. You'd be better off.
Right.
So, and it was someone who's new to record collecting, so they were more than happy with that anyway. They were in music and not in it for the whole thing, which for me, I get it. I prefer to have the full package, but for starting off, I guess one can't complain just as much as I didn't complain when I got that beaten copy back in the day.
Right.
But guitar driven, holy smokes. I'm telling you, everybody knows this album, unless, as I said, you've been collecting for 2 days. So I guess but for those who don't know, More Than a Feeling, it fades into a nice, beautiful guitar acoustic thing, and then the drums kick in, and then you just have a little instrumental electric guitar interlude, and then it goes right into the chorus of More Than a Feeling, More Than a Feeling, kind of thing. It's fantastic. And then, of course, you go into Peace of Mind, which is an all acoustic guitar piece with obviously the drums and then the guitar solos, of course, which is the one and only Boston song I ever learned how to play. I need to learn how to play more. Can you tell the albums I know a little bit more about than the ones that don't?
You are fired up right now.
Yeah. So Peace of Mind, Foreplay Long Time. Well, first of all, it starts with the first half of it, which is Foreplay, which is all instrumental. And it's definitely more keys and synth based, but it, of course, still has a guitar. Near the end of it, right before they go into the long time portion of it, the drums come in, and it just brings some guitar, like the electric guitar. It's great. And then Long Time brings into the general rock that you hear from Boston. And then Rock and Roll Band starting off side 2. First of all, that's a killer way to start side 2. Got Rock and Roll Band, everybody playing. And it's just everything. And then literally the band is smoking on the song Smoking. Like, they just don't stop. This is one of those albums that I would deem flawless. I mean, you just got it. And then I must say, Hitch a Ride is a song that the deep cut lovers and people in the vinyl community who know this album love the song. It should have been a hit. It really should have been. And because compared to Let Me Take You Home Tonight, which more people know, I feel like Hitch a Ride is the one of more deserving, even though both are fantastic. And then we also have the song Something About You. It's just all, I mean, just from the few songs I did go into a little bit more depth about, it just slaps you in the face with guitar. We got some liner notes there, and of course, the fantastic band. And, there's another album by Boston that a lot of people don't talk about that was released in the 90s called Walk On. And that one's just as good as this. There's not really, rather than like the album that came out in like 2013, 2014, there's not been a bad Boston release. Every single one is hard and heavy hitting, with the exception of Third Stage, I guess, because that's mainly more acoustic based. But if you want something to slap you in the face with guitar, here you go.
Yeah. And then you raise an interesting point too about the singles. Like, I always wonder that, like, because so many times a band will release a song as a single and then you're just like, that song really? Like 80% of the album is way better than that. You just wonder if that's a consensus on the group, or if that's coming from the producers, or what they think will do best on the radio. I mean, I'm sure it's a combination of all.
It doesn't say it's a combination. It's kind of base by base or situation by situation basis. However, it's definitely a combination of all the above. But even the singles on that album are, with no pun intended and pun intended, smoking.
Yeah, I see what you did there. But no, it's interesting too about the cassettes and how they would shuffle up the track listings. That would be super annoying to me. I've never collected cassettes enough to know, but it made me think of, like, because I always hate on double records when they'll go side A, side D, and then the second album is B, C. And I always was like, why the hell do they do that? That's so annoying. But it probably had to do with the same thing.
Actually, it didn't. Here's the reason. Because I actually got Bob Seger's Live Bullet from my grandfather's collection. It was one of the first albums I experienced that with. And I posted on my Retrospin Instagram story. And I was like, why the hell did they do this? This is driving me nuts. I hate it. But there ought to have been some reason. I mean, multiple albums are like that. So I know it wasn't a misprint.
Right.
Dylan over at Noble Records gave me my answer. He said, back in the 70s, they had those turntables where you stacked a bunch of records and it would just plop them down one at a side after a side ends. So having side A on one record and then side B plays without you needing to get up by plopping it down with the second record. And then you flip both of them over and then you just get side C and D consecutively that way without having to get up. So that was the reason why they did that.
Good old Dylan, of course he would know.
Yeah, which I'm more than happy with. I've always wondered, but now we both know.
Yeah, still annoying. I still hate it.
Oh, yes.
I guess I could see back in the day how it would be convenient, but
yeah, no. Nowadays, there's very few records that I actually do it when they have that, do it in the track list order because I just can't do it. I don't want to keep flip with it, you know. But yeah, that cassette does it. Led Zeppelin's debut album on cassette is actually interesting because side 1 and 2 on the vinyl record are in the same track order on the cassette, except side 2 on the vinyl record is considered side 1 on the cassette. And that's one I have multiple copies of on cassette, or I have owned multiple copies of on cassette because, first of all, Zeppelin's one of my favorite bands, and then 2, I get all these collections and all that stuff. So I see it, and I'm just like, yeah, I always wondered if that was a misprint, but
it's consistent, huh?
Of what I've seen, yeah, which that one is
weird,
a little bit unexplainable compared to the one with the Boston album makes sense. So.
But I think I have a sense of what's coming for your last one, but maybe not.
What, based on what I've shown here?
No, just based on what you were just talking about, but I could be wrong.
I want you to tell me if you're right or wrong once I show what I have, and then I'm curious if you're wrong what it was. But I will be very surprised if there's only one hint I've given in this entire video as to what this next artist is, and I will be very surprised if you get this.
Oh, then it's not going to be. But I'll tell you what I was thinking.
Okay. But we'll get there.
My last one is Stadium Arcadium by the Chili Peppers. So, man, there's so much going on with this one. Obviously, it's a 2 LP, so it's loaded with like 16 hours of just awesomeness. John Frusciante's last album with the Chili Peppers before he left a couple of years after this came out, and then was gone until he just rejoined like a few months ago, which is completely crazy and out of the blue. But I saw that and I was like, what?
that when he rejoined the band, that was one of those things where I remember exactly where I was. I'm gonna remember that probably where I was.
Right, because I didn't think that was ever gonna happen. Like, they seemed content with what they were doing, but I'll be the first to admit I was one of those guys where when he left, like, the band just wasn't the same for me, and their 2 albums without him, I don't know, The Getaway I think is one, and then I'm With You or something.
Yeah, I like The Getaway. I'm With You I didn't like as much.
Yeah, and it was like they were both okay, and I really liked a few songs off each one, but to me it was just like, this is not the Chili Peppers. And I hate to say that because I don't want to be like a fair weather fan, but Frusciante, he was just like freaking phenomenal. Like, that band, every piece, Kiedis, Flea, Smith, and Frusciante, they're all so vitally important, but like, to me it's always, because I'm a guitar lover, it's always about the guitar. And like, this album in particular is super guitar driven. Pretty much every single song, he's got a crazy solo, a crazy riff, or even just his rhythm through it is just amazing. I mean, I could just rattle off all of these. Danny California, killer solo. Ready Made, oh my God, that solo is insane. Slow Cheetah, a slower song, but one of my favorites off the album. Turn It Again, he goes nuts on, especially in Michigan, is awesome. Just rhythm the whole time. I mean, you could do you know this album very well or?
Not very well, but I've heard most of that album, and I
Yeah.
fully agree with you. And I really don't understand why that album gets so much shit and hate that it does. I assume it's because it's a double album and it's so long. That's the only explanation I could give, because that album is so in your face. I mean, yeah, Danny California, Snow, and all them, like that. Of course, you heard that too many times, but like, there's
Yeah.
those songs. It's like for me, Led Zeppelin Starway to Heaven. There's a reason you've heard it so many times. It's
Hmm.
that good.
Right, and I'll be the first to admit, like I can still listen to Danny California, but if I hear Snow, I'm usually skipping the song. But that song has very intricate, awesome guitar work, and it's
Yeah.
like it's hard to knock it. But I didn't know that that album really got hate from the fans. I just assumed everyone loved it.
I mean, based on who I know, who are like diehard Chili Pepper fans, or are very deep into it more so than me, because I don't know the Red Hot Chili Peppers discography as well as, say, probably you and most people.
Hmm.
But like what I know, like I mean, that album is fantastic. I mean, Blood Sugar Sex Magic is fantastic. One Hot Minute's fantastic. Mother's Milk was my introduction to the band, so
Yeah.
I obviously love that one, which is another very great guitar driven album, actually.
Oh my gosh, that was yeah, that Mother's Milk is. I was gonna grab Red Hot or Blood Sugar Sex Magic, and I was just like, you know what? I'm gonna change it up because I feel like all of their albums leading up to this, like they were working their entire career to get to this point. I remember reading an article or watching an interview with Anthony Kiedis, and he was like holding both albums in his hands, and he was just like cradling them like a baby, and he was just like so proud of it.
Yeah,
And you know they're all clean at this point, like
right.
which it's just like it's like the calm after the storm, you know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
all of their early stuff was so raw and killer, and they were all drugged up, and like I loved those albums, but this was like what they were working towards. I feel like, and this was like the encore almost.
No matter how raw, like, and all over the place, the earlier stuff like Californication, by the way, and all the others I mentioned earlier, like this one's almost like this one's even almost more true and raw in that respect.
Yeah, for sure. I just feel yeah, exactly, and I feel like they were a band that like they kind of grew with every album.
Yeah.
I remember too that like on By the Way, because that was the first album after the whole One Hot Minute without John Frusciante because he had left for that album. But
Mhm.
so he hadn't been with the band in years, and he like got so into drugs that he like just stopped playing guitar, and he basically had to reteach himself how to play guitar for By the Way.
Oh,
So we
wow.
went back to the kind of went back to the basics, but
Not know
for
that.
him the basics is this like a million light years above me or you know what I mean? But that album in itself is awesome too. Like, man,
That's that of modern albums for vinyl record, that one is a grail for me.
By the Way.
Yeah. No, well, by no, Stadium Arcadium. I mean, by the way,
Oh yeah,
I'd love to own by the way on CD or vinyl record too, but um,
right.
I only have that one digitally.
Yeah, and this is not a 2006 OG. This is doesn't say it on the back, but it's a recent reissue that came out within the past few years. I think you can get them for like 30, $35. They're pretty cheap.
Well, if it's only that much, maybe I was looking at the original present because I saw them for like 60, 100 plus. So I was just like,
Yeah, that's
I
the
couldn't believe
original.
it. But that's one of those albums that I don't care if it's an original or a reissue. Some
Right.
over, I mean, for the most part, overall, I don't care about that anyway. But there are some albums that I'm just like, yeah, I want the.
I know. And that could be a whole other video where we could talk for 2 hours. Like, how do you decide?
That'd be an interesting video for
It
everyone,
would
I'm
be.
sure. But all right, let's see if you're right. And if you are truly on point with the at least the artist that I chose, props to you. I'll be extremely impressed. So this is the person who was mentored by Joe Stradiani. This guy got his start working with Frank Zappa in the early to later 80s. No, yes, yes. and went on to do his own solo stuff, which is what I'm going to be showing here. He's still doing solo stuff to this day. There was another fact I was about to mention that I have drawn a blank on, but it's all instrumental like Joe Stradiani, and this individual is Steve Vai.
Steve Vai, nice. No, dude, I was way off. It just seemed like you were really talking up Zeppelin, like you were going to get to them in your next album. So I just assumed it was Zeppelin.
Yeah. And now I remembered the fact I was going to share with this is Steve Vai actually joined Whitesnake for the album Slip of the Tongue. He was a guitarist on that album, actually. So that was another thing I wanted to show. Now, obviously, I have it on cassette and vinyl record here. The cassette is nothing fancy. It has the what's the name of the label this guy is on this one? Relativity. So it has a cool Relativity logo there. Don't know how well that's coming up in the camera.
Yep, got it.
We got that. And also we have the beautiful, these cassette things. People take these for granted, and they are definitely a royal pain in the ass at times, but they have some cool things sometimes in here that you could see. Yeah, right. If that doesn't scream 90s, I don't know what does. And then,
man, that's so bad.
And then for the songs that do have lyrics, there are lyrics in here, but he's known for his instrumental works, and he does a damn good job of it. It's all the stuff I said about Joe Stradiani, I second it with Steve Vai, and also Steve Vai was mentored by this guy, so it only makes sense. And I just love how mystical and like fantasy-esque this album cover is. You see that?
It's awesome.
Like there's like fairies up here. It's just like fire and flames. There's some snakes down by his boots. We got a little like Illuminati kind of triangle looking thing there.
He doesn't strike me as like a Les Paul guy. What does he play?
He's playing Ibanez.
Okay, yeah, that sounds right.
He's an Ibanez guy, and let me show you this. There's him with his Ibanez.
Oh yeah, yep.
That's this one. This is before he had the cutout. He guitars that he plays nowadays, he has like a little, pretty much handle that he has here that he has.
Oh yeah,
custom made for him, which you might have seen out in the wild, maybe at a Guitar Center or something like that. Now the challenge is going to be how the heck do I fold this thing back up? Because I did that. Now I gotta. There we go. Cool. Did it work? Beautiful. I got it to work.
That was in the cassette?
No, this was the CD version.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
No, the cassette.
How did that come out of the cassette?
Yeah, no, the CD, the cassette one was the first one I showed you with the terrible 80s photo. Well, or 80s. This album came out, what year did this one come out? This was 90s, this release, but. Oh, this is 97. This is really later in the 90s. I did not realize that. And it has a cool little CD, which kind of matches the album cover. But this guy I was introduced to starting off my guitar stuff, or partly, because I was getting vocal lessons and guitar lessons at the same time. So my vocal teacher's son, who I'm friends with to this day, was talking about Steve Vai, and I was like, well, I got to check him out. I actually saw my friend perform at a venue by me called the Stanhope House. He was able to perform with a group that was performing called the Brass Balls, which is an all brass ensemble, which plays a bunch of cool covers and originals. It's great. But that day, my friend performed a cover of "The Audience Is Listening" by Steve Vai. Are you familiar with Steve Vai at all?
Again, kind of similar to Satriani. Heard his name, seen him shown a lot. I haven't really explored his music. Okay, no, that's fine. But I'll tell you with this, "The Audience Is Listening" is a really kind of fun and joking around kind of tune, because what happens is that song, that's one with words to it. Mm-hmm.
Steve Vai is a child at the time, or so he's supposedly playing as a child, and he's in the classroom doing show and tell with his guitar. So he just brings in a guitar amp, like the whole 9 yards. He starts playing, and the teacher's like, "That's a little loud," and all this stuff. And it goes all ape crap all over him, and it's just fantastic. But there's stuff like that. There's which I feel like in a similar realm to the opening to "Shine On You Crazy Diamond" I mentioned earlier. There's a ballad tune on here called "Blue Powder," which is fantastic. Some great like effects that he uses on guitar on that one. I'll tell you, there's not a bad song on this album either. Liberty, which kind of gives me a kind of a patriotic vibe, regardless of the name of it. Like it kind of was like maybe I'm getting it just solely based on the title. I don't know, and it kind of just stuck for me, and I just get that association now because I associated
Right.
with that back in the day. I don't know, but
Yeah.
because there's no patriotic anything in it, but it's fantastic, and this is one of my favorite all instrumental guitar albums of all time, and
Sweet. I
he
gotta
had
check both of them out.
yeah this I would go as far to say this one first.
Okay.
Um, if it was up to me, you do what you want, of course, but
No, Mike, I'm gonna do what you tell me to do, and that's what I'm gonna go with.
perfect. But yes, Steve Vai, all instrumental here, and this was actually the first all instrumental album next to Steve Vai's album Alien Love Secrets that I fell in love with an all instrumental album. Because up until this time, I was mainly listening to while my parents were playing or country music, and
Right. Right.
this was kind of my breaking out. It wasn't too long after this I discovered Megadeth, Metallica, and Iron Maiden, and it was just progression, Pink Floyd, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah. Right. It's crazy how that evolves, isn't it?
Oh yeah, because I was growing up listening to things like Journey, the Eagles, Jimmy Buffett, Dixie Chicks, Def Leppard, Van Halen, Toby Keith, Kenny Chesney, all that stuff. And
Right.
then a little seventh grade Mike pulls out Steve Vai. So
You were the cool kid, man.
oh, I wish, but it has a cool little side to that too. You can't really read the writing; it just says the name of the album and all that, but it has a cool color scheme and all that. The whole thing is it's just a cool album. I need to re-listen to this. I'm keeping this out. I'm listening to this not too long, within the next day or two now.
Yeah, dude, and you showing these cassettes too. Like again, I'm gonna look like an idiot, but so I've been on Discogs a lot lately because I'm like always looking for new music. I'm digging deep and looking for like lesser known artists.
Mm-hmm.
So I find an album I'm interested in, I click on it, and then you see like, okay, you're looking at version 6 of 25. You're like, okay, there's 25 versions. So I click on view all, and it goes in chronological order, earliest to most recent. And I'll see like 1969 US, 1969 US, 1969 US. And then I'll look and I'll be like LP, cassette. I'm like, what? I didn't know cassettes were even out in the 60s. Like, I didn't know they were around that long.
So cassettes, the history of cassettes really in brief is they started off as 4-track cassettes actually, before the 8-track even became a thing that was 4 tracks. And
Mm-hmm.
I see a little kitty in the background.
Oh yeah, Rosie. She
Yeah,
had me. Yep.
yeah, you usually don't see the kitties in your videos, but so there was 4 tracks, and again in a collection I have a whole bunch of sealed 4 tracks from like the 50s and 60s and maybe even 70s. I don't have any means to play them because you can't play them on the same equipment as an 8-track player.
Right.
So there was the 4 tracks, which I assume were commercially used in vehicles similar to the 8-track, but I do not know that as a fact because I always hear about 8 tracks in cars and then it's just AM radio before that. I don't really hear about a 4-track ever. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't really know where the 4-track comes into play. I just know it's before the 8-track. And then we have
Right.
the 8-track, which is obviously the mainly travel format for playing on in your car pretty much and not just the radio. But of course there's a home stereo equipment where you're able to get them and all that stuff and play them on. I have one of those things that I inherited from one of my grandparents' friends who were cleaning out. I got that in a couple 8-tracks, which was kind of cool. Because you don't see 8-tracks in the wild. I've only seen them in the wild once, and I didn't buy any.
Right.
But
Right.
so the few I got from that individual's collection that they had given me, and yeah, then it became the late 60s, early 70s. It was more the early 70s, and then they just repressed the older albums and just it's not like what you see on like modern vinyl record reissues on Discogs where it says 2019 for an album that came out in 2002. That's just a modern pressing.
Mm-hmm.
Many times the cassettes just still had the same copyright. Like, and I don't have many early pressings of cassettes. I only have one. It's a Black Sabbath's Volume 4 album. I'll have to pull it out and show you one day. It's, or maybe even after this video is done recording, I could go down and pull it out. It's not in traditional form. It's not in the case like this. It's in a black plastic case, and just like with what vinyl records were having, it was a piece of paper that was glued onto it, and then there's just an opening on the side with a little tab that makes it so when you shake the cassette, it doesn't fall out, pretty much. And then you just have to force the cassette out a little bit. It's a little bit difficult to pull out, if I'm being honest, but
right.
You know, it's the technology I had back then. So, and then the cassette pretty much kind of just, again, was mainly a transportation kind of thing, like the 8-track was. And then in the 80s, it became more popular when boom boxes became a thing, in the early days of when new wave and synth pop really became, and you're getting Madonnas and Cyndi Laupers and all that stuff. And then the compact cassette exploded with the realm of hip hop. And then you get stereotypical kind of thing. And then, well, we both were alive to kind of see the rest of it, so we all kind of know how the rest of that played out. And then the compact cassette, which surprisingly did not obsolete the cassette until the early 2000s, and then here we are.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I'm
yeah, no, it was just crazy. It was just one of those where I had never really thought about cassettes all that much in the history of them, because I never got into them. It was CDs for me growing up, and then digital and CDs, and then now it's pretty much strictly vinyl.
Honestly, pretty much the same for the most part. I started getting CDs when I was very young. My parents gave me a couple CDs when I was like 2004, 2005 even. So I was 6, 7, actually even earlier, 4 or 5, maybe. And then I ended up buying my own CDs. And then my dad was discovering that I was like in music and all that stuff. I was going through his CD collection, my mom's CD collection, going through the cassettes they had. And then I discovered that my dad had 2 copies of an album by Billy Ray Cyrus, one sealed and one opened, called Some Gave All, which I believe was Billy Ray Cyrus's debut album, and it was most well known for the overplayed hit Achy Breaky Heart. And I like the song, I like the album, but I must say the song Some Gave All, if anybody out there is a veteran, I know that Mark over at Golden Vinyl Spin Cafe is a veteran, even though it's Canadian versus US, the same things still apply. It's honorable, very much appreciated. Listen to the song Some Gave All from that album. It hits you in the feels, but because of all they do. But yeah, I got that cassette from my dad, and the sealed one, and I started playing that nonstop. And then that was my first thing with the cassette. Then I asked my mom, where were all those childhood cassettes I had? Because I remember my mom would play me some classical cassettes, like Seascape kind of stuff. I remember having the Tigger movie soundtrack on cassette when I was younger that my mom would always play. I know every word to the most wonderful thing about Tigger's song. I'm not going to show that fact, but I can do it to this day. And but really, I had those. But then when I got that cassette from my dad of the Billy Ray Cyrus cassette, then I started diving into the world of cassettes. And it's not my main driver. Things like 90s stuff and some hip hop stuff, I'm really wanting to get on there, because that's kind of the cool things to find on there, like Backstreet Boys or Eazy-E.
Right.
That's great to find. But like, if I'll look at the cassettes, but for the most part, I truly don't buy. Most of the stuff is from collections I've been offered and took up. I do truly enjoy the format. I do have a double deck up in my main setup here, and I have a CD and cassette all in one player in the basement. But I don't go out of my way for cassettes, but openly welcome them. The fellow VC member texted me some photos of some cassettes recently.
Yeah.
Are you interested? Otherwise, I'm just going to throw them away. And I was like, I'll take them. So,
right.
When everything disappears in the world, I'll get that eventually, because just like me, I'm not sending out any of the VCLT packages I have at the moment. So, for people. So,
yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of how the cassettes came to be. And then, as you heard in the Tunes from the Man Cave collab I did, that's kind of how I got into the whole realm of vinyl, and the rest is history. Now we're here spending all our free money and joy money on records, and hopefully most of us are not going into debt in the process.
It's a damn good hobby to have, though, I gotta say.
Well, I say it's better than doing heroin or crack.
Right.
Um,
Probably, I'll say probably cheaper. I guess I'm not exactly sure, but
I mean,
probably equally as addicting. Not to
uh,
make light of addiction, but I mean, vinyl collecting's pretty addicting.
no, it most certainly is. I was on a call with Jam on Vinyl, Chris Profi, Musically Obsessed, Bill over the Vinyl Verse, Dylan, the Record Spinner, and there was me, and I think that was it for that call. We were talking about records, and we ended up talking about Tangerine Dream because Bill over that Vinyl Verse loves them. I think,
Yeah.
and I believe that Jam on Vinyl mentioned it. I can't remember how the whole thing went down, but pretty much the next day, Chris Profi bought like 3 Tangerine Dreams records.
Right.
It's all the same thing. It's addicting in the best of ways. And my dad always says, you got to save your money for when you want to get a house, just take a girl out, all this stuff. And I'm just like, you're right. I will. He always, but at the end of the day, he's like, Mike, you shouldn't be spending all your money. And I was like, yeah, you're right. But I am being careful. I am saving, doing the percentage system. This amount goes in the bank. This amount goes to records kind of thing.
Yeah, right. You have a budget.
But at the end of the day, he's like, you know what, that is kind of a cool hobby. So
For sure.
without a doubt. Yeah, you can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with vinyl records, man. And
no, you can't.
I mean, of course, the styluses run low, and then you have to buy new ones, and you might not be able to listen to records for a while. But it's worth it when you get that new stylus, and it sounds more killer than ever on that platform.
Right. That's the game we choose to play, right? I know that mine's probably getting close to a replacement, and I'll probably let it run to the point where I'm like, crap, it needs to be replaced now, and then I'll have to wait like a week or two for it to deliver, and I'll be miserable. I should just go and probably like order one tonight. But again, yeah, it's like $30-$40 I never want to spend.
Yeah, I don't know. I have an Onkyo CP101A from the 80s. I got it practically new when the individual who gave me it, I was given it for free. It was nice. I had a perfectly working turntable, but now I have one in my other setup, and now I have this one. This one needs a new stylus, and it's weird because some albums I played on it sounded fine. Some of them were like, oh, there's a clear audio difference. And then when it got to the point where my one channel was louder than the other, I was like, all right, now it needs a change. Because
right.
Because as we know with the record, it's going inwards through the centripetal force or whatever with the groove, however the force works to grab it into there. I assume it's centripetal force, but I could be wrong. So obviously the one side gets worn down more than the other because you're constantly pressing against the one side more. So that was kind of a clear indicator when Queen 2 does not sound like as epic as Queen 2 usually does. That's when I was like, okay, I need a new.
Got to bite the bullet and do it.
Yeah, and it's interesting because you say that the styluses are like $30 and all that. Which to replace this one, yes, they even sell the vintage gear on this one website I discovered. They have vintage belts and styluses for this. Not that they were vintage like built back then, but still made for this. And yeah, that's gonna be cool. I could totally get that. But I've always wanted to get an Ortofon 2M Red, so I'm needing to do research to see if my turntable is even able to do that.
Oh, right.
Because due to its age, I'm not sure if I'm going to do that or if I ever get a Audio Technica 120 LP or LP 120, then I'll know I'll be able to do it then. But
yeah, right. I know. I just try not to even look into all that because I know that's a rabbit hole I don't want to go down. Like, I could probably upgrade my speakers, then it'll lead to. I could probably upgrade my turntable. Oh, the receiver. I don't know about that. Like, I'm just.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure. I haven't made my final decision yet, but I've just always wanted an Ortofon 2M Red, and it's a good quality one. It's up there in the numbers, of course, for a college student paying their way through college, but it's not like an impossible buy for me. I could totally do it right now, and would.
Yeah.
I knew for a fact that it would work for this one, so I got to do research, and I can't really ask my local record stores at the moment. But
Right.
I would be just as okay with the $30 replacement that I know goes with this one because it's sounded fine this whole time. But I just was curious to do that next step, but maybe it's not time.
I know. I think that's the other thing too. Like, I'm happy with my setup, but if I heard someone else's setup that like blew my ears out of the water, that's when I'd be like, all right, I guess maybe I need to look into my gear a little better. But
Well, it's interesting.
until that happens, I'm happy with what I got.
Yeah, it's interesting because I don't have. My dad has a Bose system that he bought in the 90s that's still working for the most part to this day.
Nice.
Unlike the way things last nowadays. But
yeah, right.
but it's what's great about that is earlier tonight you actually saw it on Instagram because I posted it while I was in class, even though I had done this a couple hours earlier on my Retrospin Vinyl account. I posted the Stormwatch DVD 5.1 surround that I was listening to.
Yep.
And I must say, I've heard that album on that stereo system with the reprocessed version that the Onkyo or the Bose system naturally will do with the turntable, because due to the fact there's 5 speakers, it'll just naturally channel it the way it thinks is appropriate. I don't know how the technology or any of that works, but it does it. But the way they mastered and mixed the 5.1, it's the authentic 5.1, and it just, you hear the vocals in the front, all instrumentals in the back, or sometimes it's a mix of the higher up and then the other one I don't know how they do it, but Steve Wilson is the one who did that 40th reissue of Stormwatch that I got the CD box set of, and then I have the original or early press on vinyl record. But I'll tell you, that sounded fantastic, and I haven't sat down and listened to the entire album in its entirety because I had to get ready for class and eat dinner.
Yeah.
But what I heard, I was like, whoa.
Whoa.
So and that's not even like, I guess that's the closest thing I have to anything audiophile-esque, rather than like a couple of lo-fi vinyl records. But like, I'm not necessarily ready to go down that rabbit hole.
I know. I hear you.
But it's not like I'm going for the Ortofon 2M Black, which is like 500 plus.
Yeah, no, I'm good.
I better be making a damn good salary if I'm ever going to be doing that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. But anyway.
All right, my man. We hit our 5 each, huh?
Oh, yeah. I hope everybody enjoyed this guitar-oriented albums that we both chose from our guitar player standpoints. Even though, I mean, you could pull out any album really. I mean, obviously there's guitar in it, but these are some of the best in our opinion. And hell, I even had full-on straight instrumentals. So, but no, hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I know I most certainly did. I'm sure Chris, you did as well.
Absolutely, brother. It was fun.
Absolutely, and if you don't know who Chris is, stop slacking. Go check him out. He'll be below. His links. Normal.
I know you won't do me dirty.
I will not do you dirty. And thank you guys for watching. Thank you, Chris, for joining me. And I will. Of course,
man.
And I will see you in the next vinyl record video.
Keep growing that stash, brother. It looks good.
Oh, thanks.